Hello, welcome to the Balanced Body Podcast. I'm Lindy Royer, physical therapist, founder of Park Meadows Pilates and Physical Therapy in Lone Tree, Colorado, and Balanced Body faculty member. Today we're going to be talking about balancing the quadriceps, particularly as it relates to knee and hip rehabilitation. I'm here with my friend Krista, who's going to be demonstrating for us today. We're going to be using the Pilates reformer in a way that might surprise you in terms of things that you've seen before. We're going to be using standard footwork, but we're going to really take a look at how the quadriceps function and what we really want to be paying attention to when we're assessing, treating, and rehabilitating lower extremity. So just as a reminder, the quadricep is a four-muscle group. The lateral quadricep actually wraps around more posteriorly than most of us are aware. So it actually connects to the linea aspera on the back of the femur, comes down, of course, and attaches through the patella tendon anteriorly. We also have an intermediate quadriceps, a medial quadricep, which also wraps quite posteriorly, and then we complete the group with rectus femoris. So we're going to ask Krista to work on one leg because we want to take a really good look at what she's doing single leg so that we can make sure that we're integrating good mechanics into our footwork. So Krista, can you just float your right leg up? And we're going to have Krista just do a single leg press, making sure, of course, that she's starting from her ideal alignment, head, shoulders, ribs, pelvis, all in their optimal and aligned position. And then Krista, can you take a breath in? And then as you exhale, press the carriage out. She's pressing through the center of the heel here because I just want to get a look at the weight-bearing potential through this left leg and then pull the carriage in. We're also looking at the control. So as she's pressing out, you're going to do about 6 of these. I'm looking at whether there's any wobbling going on in the leg. How's the leg tracking as she moves it in and out? Really important here to get a good look at her from a variety of different angles. So I want to look at her from the side. I want to make sure that I'm looking at her from the top end. I also want to look from the other side so that I'm getting a really good view of how she's doing in terms of alignment and control of that left leg. Now, one of the things that we hear a lot is pull from the back of the leg, focusing a lot on integrating the hamstrings. This is perfectly valid. However, when we're talking about rehabilitation and we're specifically dialed in and focused on the quadriceps, I want her to work her quadriceps. So Krista, as you're pressing out, can you focus on the front of the thigh? And then as you're coming in, can you control from the front of the thigh as you come in? So some potential deviations that we might see. So can you just show us in a little bit of a rotated, position? So Krista's knee has started to come in, which tells us that she's not activating the lateral side of her quads very well. I might give her just a manual cue of staying into my hand on the lateral side as she presses the carriage out and as she pulls the carriage back in. Conversely, if she's not activating the medial side, we might see the knee wobbling out to the side laterally, in which case I want to give her a medial cue to remind her to activate the medial side of the knee. So I'm also giving her a little bit of information through the ball of the foot because grounding the whole foot will often help to improve the facilitation of the muscles of the leg. So I'm just helping to ground her left foot here as she presses in and out and pull the carriage back in. Another important thing to watch out for, and you can lower that leg down and take a break, thank you. Another important thing to watch out for is making sure that your student, client, or patient is completing full range of motion. As we know, one of the things that we see quite often after a knee injury is that we lack the last few degrees of extension. So really making sure that as they're extending, are they fully completing that knee extension to the best of their ability? So Krista, can you float this leg back up? Thank you. And as she presses out, we're just going to give her a little bit more information to open the back of the knee so that she's fully completing her knee extension and then Flex at your hip, flex at your knee, and pull the carriage in. Thank you. And then lower this leg down. A couple of things that you might do then, once we've established alignment, then we're going to go back to balanced leg pressing on 2 legs. You can use a couple of props here if you want to continue facilitating medial or lateral quadriceps. So if I wanted to use my hands to help facilitate something else, I could put a ball either between the knees or even between the ankles to help access the medial chain. So Krista, keeping the ball there between the ankles, can you feel that connection all the way through the center of the leg up to the sit bones? So now I can be hands-free while she's still getting that feedback. So perhaps I might want to give her a little more information into her feet. Maybe I want to work a little bit more on torso control and pull the carriage in. Thank you very much. Another option is if you want to facilitate some lateral activation, we can take a band, and we're just going to place that around Krista's legs. She's now going to pull out into the band as she presses the carriage in and out. One thing to note with the band is that as we go into a little bit more extension, we reduce the tension on the band. So one of the things to just keep in mind is that the band will go a little bit slack as we go into knee extension, hip extension, and then increase resistance as we come in. So in general, a manual cue is going to be more consistent than having a prop like a band wrapped around the outside of the thighs and pull the carriage in. We're now going to take a look at a more functional position in sitting of activating and balancing the quads. Here we have Krista sitting on the foot bar with her feet on the bottom of the carriage. We have a blue spring on here. And this is a more functional position since she's now upright in our normal relationship to gravity. This is also a position that reminds me quite a bit of driving, for example. We have lots of people that come in with problems with knees, hips, legs, even lower back because of driving. So this is a great exercise for function. It's also a good place for Krista to be able to observe the alignment of her legs. So at some point, she's going to be glancing down and having a look at the alignment so that she can get some visual feedback about her own alignment. This is really important. A lot of times when we're supine, we're really the ones that are giving the information to our students about where they are in space. It's really important for them to also have their own feedback in order to make permanent changes with alignment and function and control. So Krista, she's sitting beautifully already on top of her sit bones. Can you show us what would happen if you were not beautifully sitting on top of your sit bones? So if she goes into a slump, she's obviously feeling pretty unsteady. She wasn't quite thrilled about doing that particular thing. And you can see here we're not aligned, so there's no chance that she's going to be able to actually support herself from her torso and then be able to activate her legs appropriately. So we want to bring her back into that nice aligned position sitting right on top of the sit bones. Her legs are parallel right now, hip distance apart. Her arms are just resting down by the side. They're there if she needs to grab a hold of the bar. And with new students, I often will just ask them to hang lightly onto the bar, keeping their shoulders and collarbones open and their arms nice and long. So take a breath in to prepare. As you exhale, press the carriage out. So again, we're looking at control and alignment, particularly focused on what the quadriceps are doing in terms of knee extension. And again, you want to take a look at this from all angles. So Krista, can you just have a look down and see what you think about that alignment? As we know, the legs stay parallel, and we talk a lot about this alignment from hip to knee to ankle. This is happening, of course, because of the rhythms of the bone. There are natural spirals occurring at all joints as we're moving through space, giving us the illusion that the legs are actually staying completely parallel. But as we know, we've got some spiraling going on in all the bones of the lower extremity right now. Krista, can you float one leg up and press the carriage out? So now we can take a look at control of the left leg in space. We're also getting a really good idea of how she's doing in terms of pelvic control. So is she maintaining balance through the pelvis as she activates the left leg? And can you switch sides? And now getting an idea of how she's doing with the right leg. So if, for example, we needed to give her a little bit more information so that she's activating medial quads, I can just give her manual cue medially on the thigh to make sure that we're really getting that activation of medial quadricep, and pull the carriage back in and lower the leg down. Really important for knee function is this component of pelvic stability and hip mobility and hip control. Most of the muscles that act around the knee joint come from the hip or from the lower leg. So it's important not to ignore what's happening in the hip and pelvis when rehabilitating the knee. Thank you very much for watching.